everybody, and welcome to the Car Ride Convos Podcast, episode number 8. Is that what we're on?
Is it 8?
I think it's 8.
I think it's 8, too.
It's 8. I'm Ryan.
I'm Kristen.
And this is the only podcast that takes 40 minutes to get to the post office.
Got him.
Nope. That's a little bit of a throwback.
Oh, man.
That's a throwback to episode 1.
Oh.
I'm a person, and my name is Anakin.
Yep.
Yeah.
Today we are back to our, I think this is our world-renowned segment. Like, everybody has fallen in love with this segment. It's a huge deal.
Yes.
Mostly because of our incompetencies, but today we are doing movie review. Movie review.
Yikes.
Copyright infringement.
I don't think
That's not how that works.
I don't think so either.
No.
But you get it. You get
Yeah.
it. Movie review.
Yeah. Shamelessly ripping off other YouTubers.
Okay. All right.
We should let's just turn that segment. That's what our movie review segment is. It's just like, let's just rip off everyone else. Damn it!
Well, but we're different in the sense that we pick the most renowned and stellar and high quality movies to review.
Yes. Honestly, I was thinking, I was like, okay, so we're just gonna name the movies because they're that renowned, and I literally, because of the first one, I could not think of the name for half a second. That's how forgettable Happy Death Day was.
Oh my gosh.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
I really couldn't think of it at all.
We're going to try to stay a little bit more on topic this time because we were kind of all over with that. But we did make a point to watch this movie last night. So
we watched it last night
in our brains, and we'll try not to be like ADHD.
Yeah, and we'll make sure to, not that so far we're 2 for 2 in movies that I really don't care to like mention spoilers, you know? But
I mean,
it's
who
just,
cares?
I mean, yeah. So I've had I only know one person who attempted to watch this.
I feel like this, let's just say what it is, because I feel like now we're being just very elusive.
Yeah.
What movie did we watch there, right?
We watched Bright, the David Ayer film on Netflix. Film, I mean, if you want to, you know, that might be too gratuitous. But Kristen and I had the lovely pleasure of the 2 most recent David Ayer movies we've seen is Suicide Squad and Bright.
Very similar.
Incredibly similar.
Like the feel, I guess. Like the super pumped up popular music that's in the movie that really doesn't have anything to do with the concept of the movie. Really weird storylines. Nothing is really explained, and a lot of things are just overdone.
Yeah.
Redundantly spoken out loud. Like, it's like, oh yeah, I knew that. And then the character has to spell it out for you and say exactly what's happening.
That's a magic wand.
And the overdone part, I think, really speaks to, I think, the score. I couldn't tell if the moments were so underwhelming that I didn't care, or the score was just so crazy and emotional that I was just like, am I supposed to care a lot about what's going on right now?
But did they... See, and I don't even remember. Was there actually, like, a score to this movie?
There was a little bit, a little bit of a score. It's like 15% score, 85% pop music. Mm-hmm. But instead of pop music, it's like pop rap music. Like, that's a lot of what's going on.
Edgy.
Yeah. And David Ayer tries to go back on, like, what he knows, kind of like, I guess people liked the movie End of Watch. I've never seen it with Jake Gyllenhaal, and
I haven't seen that either.
I think it may have actually been I can't remember his name in Bright, but it may have been the same other, you know, side character. And whenever he wrote, no. And when he wrote Training Day, as well, the cop in the cop car driving around Los Angeles, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's kind of what, like, David Ayer, because a lot of people don't know this, but in addition to writing Training Day, which he's very, very well known for, he actually wrote the first Fast and the Furious movie.
Wow.
Which I think those two movies, I'm not a fan of Training Day, but I will give it like a little bit of, it's a movie and it's not half bad. So I can see why people could be tricked into thinking that it's a solid, great movie. There are so many great lines in it, though. I will say that because...
Wait, are you talking about Training Day?
Training Day.
No, we're doing it again.
Don't do it?
Don't go off topic.
Gotcha.
Back to the movie.
Back to Bright.
We're already just killing it. I think we should probably just give a brief overview to those of you who decided to not waste your time watching Bright.
Okay.
So,
the synopsis?
The synopsis of Bright is about, which looks to be pretty modern day Los Angeles.
Very modern day.
Very modern day. There's obviously humans, but there's like fairies, there's elves, there's orcs, there's like all these different
centaurs.
Yes, centaurs, dragons that kind of pop up at in the background of one scene. Like, and this is just normal LA, and it doesn't really explain too much. It's just showing like, oh, this is what it is. Like, this is who lives here. And Will Smith, who's the main character, is a very offensive and unliked cop. Who then, it doesn't really explain this relationship very much either. To me, it seems like somewhat recently has gotten this new partner who's an orc, and nobody likes orcs because of something that they continue to say happened 2,000 years ago, which is all vague, and that's pretty much what they leave it at. So there's this like battling, between them as far as like personalities go, which doesn't make any sense.
Like, it's just racism pretty much.
Yeah, basically just racism, because the orc, who is, it's Joel Edgerton, who is played by Joel Edgerton, has like such a weird personality, or lack thereof, in this movie, and I feel like it's probably one of the most wishy-washy characters in the movie.
Yes.
And then, but also has this role of supposedly taking on the comedic role, but none of the jokes, they all fall flat. They're all poorly timed.
We're sticking to synopsis right now. Sticking to synopsis.
Okay, fine.
But that's, Still.
Anyway, so that's like the main... well, then I don't even really know what the rest...
So the rest of the movie pretty much lies in the dynamic is between the orcs and the humans, but also you inject the very rich elves and stuff, and there's like, magic is illegal. And they don't explain, they explain that it's illegal, but whatever. So magic is illegal, and Joel Edgerton and Will Smith, spoilers from this point on.
But I'm sure no one cares, so, but just in case you do.
Yeah. They
Spoiler.
stumble upon a safe house for some sort of magic extremist group.
Yeah.
And I hope you can tell by my tone, this movie is a mess. Because it's so hard to...
It's hard to pin down what the story was. It's kind of everywhere.
Their hard dynamic intersects with the dynamic of an elf that had a falling out with this extremist group and was a quote-unquote bright, which means that they can hold wands and not be vaporized. And so they intersect, and then the shit really... Okay, that's my one.
Oh!
The shit hits... Yes, the shit hits the fan when...
I'm so happy right now.
I know. The shit hits the fan, and I'm just saying it over and over and over again.
Like 4 or 5 times. That's cool.
The shit hits the fan when those 3 people intersect: the wand, the girl, elf, and Joel Edgerton and Will Smith. And basically it becomes where elves are trying to get them, both elves from the secret federation, the Federal Magic Association or something like that.
Like, it's just the lack of creativity.
It's like the CIA of like magic who shuts them down. So they're being tracked down by those elves. Well, one of them's an elf, one of them's a human, whatever. Being tracked down by elves of that extremist group that are like crazy killers. We don't know why they're crazy killers or anything.
It's not explained.
They're just these crazy ninja elf robot thing. Not elf robots, but elves. They operate like robots because they really lack a lot of emotion and stuff like that, which is very weird.
Right.
And this 2 other gangs, an orc gang and a human gang. Yeah. And it all just like...
And you don't have a backstory of them either.
No.
It's just like they just show up and they're like, oh, these are bad guys?
Because the human guy has a history with Will Smith somehow. The human guy who's in the wheelchair.
Right.
He has a history with them.
Mm-hmm.
And then the orc gang has a unknown history. Like, it's like there's a surprise. I mean, you're not going to be surprised whatsoever, but a surprise at why Joel Edgerton and the orc gang have some sort of affiliation later on. You know, that's a deal that is actually it's a surprise that does nothing for the story at all. Because you're like, oh, this is like a game changer. No.
It really makes no sense.
Yeah.
Like, there's a couple moments like that in the movie.
But basically the synopsis, I feel like, needs to stop there, because once those things all converge, it just becomes this huge mess of where you don't really know. Basically, it's playing keep away with the wand, I guess. And then there's a plot device at where the wand can't be away from the bright too far or something like that, to where they can't hide it because it stops something. Like, there's so many writing plays that are in this thing that keep this thing from not untangling itself, yet at the same time, the thing, it all blows up because it's just too insane.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Like, because in the beginning of the story, I feel like they kind of make it out to be like, oh, it's gonna be a racial story. Like, it's about, like, you know, we're just gonna kind of basically, there's, you know, elves, orcs, all this other stuff, and those are gonna be the different races in, like, our actual world, and it's gonna be this whole story of, like, you know, getting along. I don't know, that's what it was kind of like playing itself out to be. Yep. And throughout the whole movie, Will Smith continues to be a jerk to his partner, who is an orc, so that never resolves. And then it's like, in the middle of you thinking this is where the story's going, this whole wand thing jumps into play and becomes like the main story with all these weird little side stories, like the whole conflict with Joel what was his character's name?
Don't know. Like Franku or something? I don't know. Something.
So, Joel, the orc. His whole weird conflict with, like, the other orcs don't like him because he's a traitor, and, like, he doesn't have sharp teeth for some reason because he hasn't been blooded, which doesn't really get explained till the very end, which doesn't really even get explained when he does get blooded. Like,
it just happens, and all of a sudden you're like, what?
Right.
It's crazy. And they try to fit this movie into an hour and 57 minutes, which is still too long, I feel like, to watch this movie.
Yeah.
That's the worst part. But it still needs more time. And I still wouldn't, I'd hate it worse. But it needs more time to explain. There are things they don't explain in the movie, which are completely fine. And then they do things to ruin that. And then things are not explained, and they're actually vital to, like, why to make me care, you know?
Yeah.
I don't care whether you're a blooded orc or you're not a blooded orc. What's the difference?
It's never explained why.
Apparently all the blooded orcs are terrible people, and they're all in gangs. So it's like, why is that? In the movie, there's never a blooded orc who's a respectable person.
Yeah.
So
it's almost like an initiation into, it seems like it's more of an initiation into a gang.
Yeah, exactly. Which is, what does that mean for a police officer elk? I mean,
we also
orc.
We also don't know why he isn't blooded anyway. Like, that, it's not even anything you're interested in because they don't give you enough of a backstory to be like, oh, this is where he came from. Why don't they like him? I don't know. Like,
who knows?
I mean, I guess it's kind of because he's a cop and everyone hates cops, but they say, oh, I don't know. This movie is such
It's crazy. And it's like trying to explain the actual ins and outs. I guess we should just get into the vague stuff where I feel like they mess up.
Well, the one thing that really, which I said like right off the bat, because it really is in like the first couple scenes, is how they just continue to remind you like, hey, we're in a mystical version of LA. Don't forget that, okay? Like, hey, look, there's a fairy outside. Can you go kill the fairy?
Why is there a fairy in the bird feeder again?
Like, there's a fairy. Oh yeah, well when I was growing up, my brother got fairy poop in his eye from a fairy.
Good afternoon, officer. Fairy lives don't matter today. That's it right there.
And it's just like, oh my gosh, like this is where the elves live. They live in Elf Town or something super generic. I can't even remember what they said. But it's all like in your face, like this is mystical. Remember that this is mystical.
They're fairy. They're fairy. They're fairy.
Oh.
It's like you don't have to be so obvious.
Yeah.
We are watching the movie. We can see that there's a fairy, that there's elves. We can figure that stuff out like on our own. Like give us more credit as a viewer to like kind of process some of this information on our own.
Exactly. And I think it's a world building problem because they fail to explain why it is that modern day LA is filled with dragons and centaurs, which is completely fine, right? That's fine. Don't say anything, just move forward. And instead, they're like, oh yeah, we're not gonna tell anybody how this happened, but we're gonna go orc, elf, over and over and over. We know what they are. Like it's like we get that. And there's actually a natural transition to most fantasy watchers, which I'm not a big fantasy person, but there will be a natural transition. If you don't say anything about how any of this happens, you will know an elf is an elf, an orc is an orc, or whatever.
Right.
Okay? They almost, like, this movie, the way that they say things so many times over, it would have benefited from an explanation for why that is. Why everything is the way it is. Is it like a conjunction of spheres type situation? Is it just always been like that, like the times of old? And there's like, you know, there are explanations that orcs did stuff like 2,000 years ago and stuff like that, and that's kind of generally a, you know, an explanation. But you know, let's remember the world is a lot older than 2,000 years old, so you can't just say that and be like, oh yeah, they'll understand that they existed since the beginning. Is it an evolution type situation? Is it like, it's just so, it's so weird the way they tried to approach this, which just doesn't surprise me whatsoever, because David Ayer, I mean, this guy's, his most recent work is just absolute masterfulness.
This bird is baked.
Because this and Suicide Squad is just like,
I mean, it was so similar in like the lines that were written, like
the line writing. Like the overall story had problems. I understand that, but they purchased the script from Max Landis, who's written a couple of things that people watch. You know, seems like I like I like Max Landis. Like I like him as a person. He's cool.
What else did he do?
He did American Ultra. He did Chronicle, which I don't like Chronicle, but Chronicle is a oh my God,
why are people I don't know.
It was just absolutely brilliant on their end. Okay, you're gonna go around. Chronicle, which was kind of like, everybody really liked it because they're like, oh man, it's like a cool sci-fi student film superhero movie. And I'm like, okay. I mean, I don't care about that, but whatever. But you know, from what I've seen, he has a YouTube channel. He's got a couple subscribers.
Okay.
Pretty cool guy if you actually listen to the way that he thinks of characters and stuff like that. You know, whatever. I mean, he's a very famous Hollywood writer.
Yeah.
But then David Ayer in there, whoever took the script and was like, okay, let's do some line editing with the dialogue. That person is so dumb. Like, that is like the craziest. They were throwing swear words into places to be edgy instead of like just how these people talk.
You to take your fat Shrek-looking ass back the home to Fiona. All right?
Yeah.
There was a couple phrases. I wish we would have just freshly watched this like this morning, because there was one that had me and you laughing.
You all right? No holes?
Only the ones I was born with.
Are your holes? How can you make a shootout awkward?
Well, one I think the first one that really stuck out to me was when Will Smith and Joel the orc are being attacked by some bad guys, whatever, and they're getting shot at in their police car.
Yes.
And the windows are rolled down, and Will Smith goes, "Roll up the windows, they're bulletproof," which is kind of like, okay, duh. I mean, I think anybody can figure out that it's a police car, whatever.
If
then
bullets are hitting the windows and they're not going through, guess what? They are bulletproof.
And it's a police car. Like,
Yeah.
you don't have to. You could do that, and we'd be like, oh well, it's a police car. I'm sure it's like a somewhat armored vehicle, whatever. And then literally 5 seconds later, when they're on the road and like they're still shooting at their car, Will Smith is like saying through the closed window to the other car, like just taunting them, saying like, "It's bulletproof, you know, mother effer, whatever." And it's just like, why? Like, why?
Yeah.
They don't teach that at the academy. No, they do not.
It's so
Why
dumb.
are you, again, it's a bad line and
Yeah.
there's like unneeded swearing. It's just
Take
like,
the first one out and use the one where he's taunting them, and there you go. You solve your
or
problem.
don't say it at
Yeah,
all.
exactly. Or don't say it at all because we understand.
Right, we're not
And
stupid.
instead they do the worst thing, and they throw it in there, and then they do it again, and it's just like the worst situation ever.
We got it.
It's
We
just
got
ridiculous.
it before you said it. We got it the first time, and now we're just exhausted by you telling us.
It is exhausting.
You're not stealing that wand.
Magic wand.
You have to protect the wand.
That's a magic wand.
It is exhausting.
There was a lot of moments I feel like that were very like redundant, or they felt like they had to like spell out the story for you.
Yeah.
Which was weird. Or like there was moments that were just so poorly. Like there was a moment when Will Smith and Joel the orc are with this. Who, I don't even really understand who that girl was. She was like, she ended up being the sister of the elf who was the bright, it was her wand, like, whatever. So they have this girl who's like mute for a while, and she begins to speak like Elvish or
huge
something.
problem.
And then she starts speaking English, and they're all whatever. Anyway, so they're with her, and Joel the orc was holding the wand in a zipped bag or whatever, and then like they're fighting, and like this is so crucial they keep the wand.
We have to protect the wand.
And Will Smith says something like, "Where's the wand?" And Joel's like, "I dropped it." It's just like so dumb. And then he drops it like 5 feet away, like just very almost like slapstick comedy type of thing.
We have to protect the wand.
And then they finish being like, you know, killing the people that are in the room. It's like violent, and they tried to add this comedy at the same time. But Will Smith is not funny at all. Like, he's just a dick in this whole movie.
Yeah.
So it doesn't work because Joel continues to try to say things that are like, oh, this is gonna be a joke that lands, and Will Smith just continues to swear and like actually be an ass.
Butterfingers. We were doing so good.
And it's just like, okay, this is a weird, there's like no clear vibe of what this movie was supposed to be.
So, this is obviously a movie that's trying to be a buddy, but not buddy, dark comedy, fantasy, action movie.
Yeah.
It's so complicated.
Yeah.
But here's a problem with the dark buddy, comedy, not comedy, whatever. Joel Edgerton and Will Smith's chemistry are absolutely whack.
Yes.
Like, it makes, like, they don't time things well. I think they kept a couple ad-lib lines in that were just
maybe
that were not.
It seemed like it.
The
for sure.
pacing was weird in the way they talked to each other. Joel Edgerton's character, you can't figure out because obviously the human cops hate him because he's an orc, but also, you know, orcs hate him because he betrayed them because of something that happened 2,000 years ago that is never explained.
But I think it's also because he's a cop.
Yeah, that too. But I'm just saying, like, that you betrayed us. And it's like,
But,
well, what's wrong with betrayal from you guys? And it's like, oh, well, it's wrong because of, remember that thing that happened 2,000 years ago that really united us with the Dark Lord?
No!
We don't remember that.
We don't know what you're talking about.
We don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And so, that character is, like, totally not fleshed out.
No.
And so weird. I don't understand it. I really don't understand it. But another problem with the girl character, the girl elf character, huge problem.
Wait, the Bright or
the Bright?
Okay, yeah.
Which the other girl is not a Bright, I don't think, even though she can hold a wand because there's like a certain sect of wand holders or something. I don't know. It's not even explained if her sister, the bad girl.
We don't even know why she stole it, because her sister's bad, but it was her wand.
Exactly. So why is she bad?
Why?
This is like theft.
Yeah, it was. Anyway, yeah.
But the girl in it,
the Bright,
yeah, who's like, she's literally a combination of a bunch of different fantasy tropes mixed in with the girl from The Fifth Element. That's exactly who she is.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like the girl in The Fifth Element, who the girl in The Fifth Element seems very, because the fact that she was just made, the girl from The Fifth Element, this other girl comes off the same way, where she's developmentally disabled. She is like she almost has autistic kind of tendencies, where she would just randomly start screaming. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
And like she throws a fit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there comes a point in the movie where that all changes and she can speak English and she's completely normal.
Right. And we know nothing about her.
Nothing.
Until
No
like
idea.
the last like 5 minutes of the movie, where they say like, oh, that's my sister, and it's supposed to be like, well, we don't care though. We know nothing about her. We don't know why she has your wand. We don't know why you're bad. Why is she your sister? Why is she like acting like this brand new made human? Like we don't know what happened at this weird combine or whatever you guys were at, why she would steal it from you. Like why any of that happened, we have no idea.
Yeah, it's so weird, and it flips this switch where she just automatically starts speaking English, and he goes, and of course, one of them makes light. He said, "This girl can speak pretty good English," and it's like, or she's like, oh, now she's speaking English?
Oh,
and it's just like, dude, we know, we're watching the movie.
Yeah. Oh, that was another bad, oh my gosh. That was another bad, like, writing scene or whatever, was when Will Smith and Joel the Orc are, like, they get surrounded by an orc gang, and I can't remember specifically why. And Will Smith, like, taunts them or says for them to back up or something, and nobody moves, and they still look like they're very threatening. And Will Smith says to Joel, he's like, can you speak to them in orc and tell them, like, tell these idiots, like, what I'm saying or whatever? And then, again, this really weird note of trying to be comedic, and Joel's like, no, I mean, they speak English. And they're all, like, people are just like, oh, yeah, no, we totally understood what you meant. And then just, like, jump on them and, like, it's so stupid.
And it's like the timing of how those 3 plot points like roll out is like weirdly slow, and you're waiting for them to be like, are you gonna answer? And it's like, and they're like, yeah, we knew what you're It's like, what?
I know, it's so dumb.
But it's refreshing that this movie's bad though. It wasn't lukewarm, it was bad. Like, it was bad, it needed a lot of work. And
how is that refreshing?
Because I'm sick of movies that are in that sort of in-between, that I'm just like, oh, it's another movie that gets churned out by Hollywood, and it's legitimately like in between, and people are like, oh, that movie's actually pretty good, and you watch it and you're like, no, that movie's like passable, and it's lukewarm, and it's not good.
I've talked to people that like this movie though.
Whoa! Which I don't understand.
But again, they're also the people that liked Suicide Squad, which I don't mind. Like, I don't mind if it's a bad.
Who are these people? I want to meet them. Not just Bright, but Suicide Squad?
No, I know. I'm not going to throw anybody under the bus. But
oh, you should. This is bad.
Like, it's not just a bad movie. Like, what is that movie, the Music Box movie, like the horror movie that we watched?
Oh, that movie is called The Last Wish, or The Last...
Wish Upon.
Wish Upon.
Yes. That movie is so stupid, but it's like comedically stupid,
yes.
But at least the story makes sense. I mean, at least you can follow that along. Like, it's a bad movie, but it's not like, who's this, what's going on? Like, the story at least is like, you get it, like, you understand. These are the movies that piss me off, like Bright and Suicide Squad, where I can't even get into it and really hate it for a good reason, because I don't even understand what I'm watching. Nothing is explained. I just feel like I'm constantly trying to catch up to whatever they were thinking as far as a concept goes with this crazy storyline that, I don't know, especially when they're this high of like production level, because it looked like it took, I mean, a lot of money to make this movie, and like The orcs, like, the makeup was really well done for the most
Yeah.
part. I mean, like, you could tell, and obviously they had some big people in it.
I think the script alone, they spent $3 million.
Which is so unfortunate because...
Someone send me to Hollywood to save these people. Oh my goodness. I'm not even a good writer, and I could write this one under the... But...
Yeah.
To Max Landis' credit, first of all, I would write a pile of garbage and sell it for $3 million, and I wouldn't... But he didn't do any promotion for this movie. I didn't see anything on his Twitter where he was actually, or his YouTube, that was talking about, go see this movie, I wrote this movie.
Yeah.
So you can tell there's a bit of a distance that after they got a hold of it, there was probably massive revisions or minor revisions. Whatever it was, he read it after or saw the preview, however involved he was, and he just was like, what you know. Nope.
No.
Nope.
I don't like
And I'd be okay with that, but I'm just saying, like, I mean, obviously David Ayer is just a master of just taking things and going to your point about not explaining things. I don't need everything explained to me. I just feel like you have to go one way or another. Either don't explain things to me and just don't say orc, elf, you know, all these things over to, like, just punch me in the face that I'm watching a fantasy movie, or explain things. And then you can get into that sort of, like, I mean, maybe it's just bad dialogue either way. I don't know.
Well, that's maybe that's the thing, is
so
that
weird.
it's like the gray. I don't need things explained to me either, but this is like, it's so all over the place, and they're constantly like, orc, elf, and then you're like, okay, why do you want me to know that? And it's just like, oh, I don't know. Just because they're there.
Because we think you're stupid, and we think you're watching the movie, and you can't tell the difference, and it's like,
yeah,
people are dumb. Like, I don't know. It's
weird.
It's a mess. But yeah, that's gonna conclude the first part of this podcast.
Yeah.
We're gonna digest it a little bit. As you can tell, I've been breaking the cardinal rule of the podcast, and I've not been driving.
I know. We've been
here.
kind of stagnant for a hot second.
Well, I heard in the comments, I mean, I don't know who this punk is, but he was making fun of how many times he saw the Target sign last time we drove here, so. Kid's an absolute punk. No, just kidding.
Okay.
He's a good guy. Maybe we should have him on the podcast one of these days, maybe, you know? Who knows? Who knows? Seems like a good kid.
Anyway.
But yeah, we will be back to talk more about Bright. This one's a doozy.
That it is.
I saw that David Ayer has 2 more movies in the works, and I'm just like, help the souls that have to go watch these.
So painful.
It's pretty bad. But we'll be back. We won't leave you hanging too long. So, see you on the flippity floppity. Give me the soppity.
What?
Laters on the Minjay, you know? That's another good one.
Wait, what?
What?
What was that?
What was that? Nothing. I didn't say anything.
Yeah.
All right, we're leaving for real. All right.
Yeah.
See ya.
Bye.
And we're back. That was quick. I mean, wow. We were gone for like 5 seconds, I feel like, you know?
Yeah, totally.
But good, though. Good, because we were able to kind of decompress that very hectic and crazy review because...
Yeah.
And I think... But at the same time, I feel like it does it justice because that's how insane this movie is. Like, I feel like... Well, I was telling you, if I were to summarize the story in the best way I can, possibly, take a cardboard box, fill it with a couple rounds of live ammo, a couple firecrackers, a couple sticks of dynamite, and some nitroglycerin, and then light the box on fire. That's this movie. It's just like, it's not like, oh, he's making a dumpster fire joke. No, it's literally like explosions and like, it just takes it's hard, you can't even digest what's going on in front of your face because it's just happening to you, and it's just like the worst.
It's hard to nail down.
Yeah.
The story and the premise
But unlike Happy Death Day, this movie wasn't lukewarm. This wasn't like, oh, it's gonna be good. This movie sucked.
Yeah, it was
This movie
bad.
was bad.
It was just bad all around. Everything about it was bad. Like, literally the only somewhat, like, positive thing that I take away from it is that I Like, the first thing that I thought when I saw the orc makeup was like, wow, that looks really good.
Yeah, good. Yeah.
And that's it. That's literally it. The acting wasn't good. The script made it worse.
Special effects weren't terrible. They weren't bad.
Yeah, right.
Like, there was some of it that I was just mentioning to Kristen. I was just like, yeah, this is what, unlike what I said last time about Black Panther and stuff, like, these visual effects are actually pretty solid. And they actually look good, which is an absolute rarity in movies, because generally, I mean, and I'm not an effects, like, I'm not like crazy about, you know, what effects people use, you know, or I just, if you're gonna use them, make them look good, you know. Basically Mad Max Fury Road versus, like, insert the Amazing Spider-Man series. Those are pretty bad. Versus the other ones. So these ones are okay. That they're passable. The makeup, I thought, like Kristen, I thought was good. Thought it was solid. It was a solid attempt. But aside from that, it just
didn't really have any redeeming qualities.
Yeah, it
was garbage.
It totally sucked. So does the sun.
Don't kill us, please.
I know, I'm trying to get this out from under the
Let me help you.
There you go. I'm not gonna kill anybody, it's fine.
Okay.
Whoa, that doesn't make it any better. Just the whole thing needs to just, my eyes, I'm like a vampire. I hate the sun so much.
We hate the sun, that much we know. Hey! We hate the moon, so we'll never let it.
But it makes us look so good in here compared to, like, Overcast. It's so, like, dreary.
Yeah, that's true. Natural lighting.
It's unbelievable.
How dirty the car is, though.
I know, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Sorry, this is gonna hurt our viewers probably. I don't know, we'll see. That's the reason why I haven't been doing it, is because I'm used to getting the audio from the camera up there. So yeah, but let's see.
What else have we not talked about?
Well,
in
the movie, because I was about to say we should probably give our final thoughts, our post-mortem on this thing, and just call it. So talked about the synopsis, talked about the effects. I think a good way to describe, like, how the process of making this movie went was there was a failure at every single level of production.
Yeah, that's for sure.
I think that every decision that had to be made about this movie was made incorrectly and really brought ill will to the final product. And I don't know, I've seen some good Netflix movies, you know, so far Mudbound being one of them, and maybe there's another one in there somewhere, but
I think we just watched another one.
We watched Okja. Oh, The Ritual, that one was not bad.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
But Netflix movies as a whole, generally, man, it's just, like, really disappointing compared to what they're putting out as far as,
like,
series they are putting out, you know? So
that's true.
Yeah, this one kind of bummed me out a little bit. I hope this is not reflective. The worst part is there is already a David Ayers? Is that his name, David?
I don't know, I already forgot.
Ayers, whatever his name is. There's already a sequel to this movie, right? And he's supposed to helm. He's supposed to direct. So
yeah, that's disappointing. I mean, is it actually in production now? Like, have they? Because this movie didn't do well, right? They haven't gotten a lot of, like,
review-wise.
Yeah.
With Netflix, things are a bit tricky.
I mean, yeah, because it's already, like, on the platform.
Yeah.
It's not like you pay to see it. But
yeah, Netflix is. I appreciate innovation. I think that going to movie theaters and seeing movies is going to be dead here in a few years.
Yeah.
Thank you, Megaplexes, for doing that. I'm not joking. I think Megaplexes really put the nail in the coffin of watching movies.
Yeah.
You have to live in a big city that features movies that are rarely seen, or old movies and stuff. Where we used to live in Rockford, there was 2 AMC theaters, and there used to be a dollar theater. That was cool. Like that was
awesome.
That was great.
Yeah.
But that closed down. Then the what's it called? The 2 AMCs. The only stuff that was ever shown in Rockford was what Megaplexes show, because there was just AMC. Is it AMC? Is that what it was? Showplace 16 and Showplace 14. They're both owned by AMC.
Wasn't there a conversion that happened? Oh, because wasn't it like a Sarasota thing? And then AMC.
Yeah, it was Sarasota.
Like Sarasota Showplace 16.
Yeah,
and then they converted to AMC.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
That was such a smooth transition. I didn't actually. That may have been the transition where, for the longest time, they were doing film projections, which I thought was really cool, and I really liked that.
Yeah.
And then they switched to digital, which I like. Digital. Digital's smooth. Digital, as you see before you, very convenient.
Yeah.
Very magical. Bunch of ones and zeros behind the closed doors, but I really like that film aesthetic, But it's just like film is going to become, just like we were talking about the other day with lab-grown meats. I think film is going to become a delicacy in the future.
Yeah, that's probably true.
It is what it is. But yeah, as far as megaplexes go, I really feel like, really feel like they messed it up for everybody, because now Netflix is moving in, and I really do see a future where people will not be going to see movies outside of their homes.
It's just so much more convenient. Like, people don't have time. Like, it's
true.
Even like watching a Netflix show, like, you have the whole entire show, so you can either sit there and binge watch it, 6, 7 episodes at a time, or a whole season or whatever.
Yep.
Or you watch like half an episode and come right back to it, and you can resume right where you started from.
Yep.
And I think it's harder and harder to, like, I don't know. I feel like everybody's trying to, like, save a buck too. It's like, you go out, go to a movie, which is not cheap now. Like, it's basically like you're paying for like 2 months of Netflix.
Yeah.
To go to one movie, and then you're paying for gas, and then God forbid you want to eat anything, it's like $50 at the end of it to see a movie. Like, it's a little ridiculous at this point. So it makes sense why streaming is kind of going to take over, and as it should, because I mean, I don't know. It's more of a hassle now. It seems like.
Yeah, I would pay $20 to stream a movie at home.
Would you?
Yes. Because the fact that, think about it, so they're obviously not going to charge $10, right? Because the price of admission is $10 per. But if someone was like, well, at least we'll charge for at least 2 people in the household every time, I would pay pay $20.
That's true.
Because I'm going to eat a bowl of 50-cent ramen at home, and my entire experience, I'll drink my $1 to $2 per beer,
Yeah.
and I'll rack up a massive $25 for sitting at home and not spending gas, which is like,
and you're comfortable, you're on your couch, I get that.
Yeah,
I mean, the only thing you're really paying for, it seems like nowadays, at a movie theater, is the fact that it's on a big screen.
Exactly.
But I mean, our TVs nowadays are
they're ginormous. Yeah,
and it's like, it almost doesn't matter.
It does not matter whatsoever. My final thought on the movie completely, because I think I'm beating a dead horse at this point.
Yeah.
But I believe...
I mean, I thought it was great. That was my
that was your great. I think that the worst movies I've seen recently are Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
Wish Upon is there, but I enjoyed it because I was laughing because it's so stupid.
Yeah.
It is the worst. It's one of the worst movies I think, this generation has to offer.
Yeah.
But
it was just a bad story. It wasn't poorly done.
Yeah. I mean, they executed well. Yeah. I mean, and there's just like some things that, it's so like the plot devices of that movie. Go watch Wish Upon.
Yeah,
that movie is
so
dumb.
It's worth the chuckle of like fake horror film.
Yeah. It's on one of those streaming sites, I think, right?
We might have watched it off of Amazon.
I don't think we paid for it.
No, I think it might have been free.
I don't think anybody. I think
they're throwing it at people at this point.
Yeah,
please.
they're like, please take this from us. So it's Suicide Squad. That movie doesn't count because the Wish Upon doesn't count because whatever. And David Ayer's Bright. I think they suck.
Yeah.
Like, I think that, I don't know what's gotten into people. I have a theory a little bit. I think a lot of movie makers, a lot of predominant movie makers that are in really good positions to negotiate with Netflix are treating it like a cash grab. They don't respect the platform.
Yeah.
They don't care to put time into what they're doing. They're not passionate about it. They just know they're going to get a big check.
Yeah.
Because Netflix will write you one. I mean, they'll write them one. So
Right.
I just think it just, on every level, this was a mistake that needed to be nipped in the bud.
Yeah.
And we got to watch a better movie for our next one.
I think it's just disappointing because of the fact that it does have such a high budget. Like, it's such a high budget film that you have a certain standard. Like, it's one thing for, like, Wish Upon, for example. I think there's one kind of, like, washed up actor in that movie. There's really nobody else that's, like, a big... I mean, they didn't really pay for it, casting, basically.
Yeah.
It's whatever. It reminds me a lot of the, is it Blumhouse, Lionsgate type of, like, early on, before they kind of got big.
Yeah.
Like, that whole feel.
Blumhouse currently.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Blumhouse is currently doing that.
Like that.
Yeah.
But
one washed up actor, the rest you're like, who are these?
Yeah. But I mean, so you kind of, it's like, oh, well, they did their best. They did the best they could at the, they only have this much to work with. Like, it is what it is, whatever. But this is like, you have millions of dollars with, like, high budget actors in it. The production value, like I said, was very high. Like, you really don't have an excuse at that point. Like, if you're working at that caliber, like, why wasn't there somebody in the process like, whoa, this is bad. Like, this is not the direction this should be going.
Yeah.
But like you said, I think it's kind of, maybe it has something to do with the platform where it's like, I mean, this is good enough for Netflix.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think people, I think that actual, like, purebred filmmakers, I don't think that they respect, they don't respect it.
Because there are Netflix actors and productions that are getting nominated for awards. Like,
oh, yeah.
So,
yeah.
I mean, you would think that people would finally kind of be getting the vibe, like, oh, Netflix is kind of a force to be reckoned with. Like, streaming is kind of the way of the future. Like, maybe we should take notice of this.
But also, there's the counter movement that I just read that Netflix movies are all disqualified from the Cannes Film Festival.
Why?
I didn't get a chance. That was the headline. I didn't get a chance to dive into it.
Is there like a
something about they just don't feel like it fits the bill for what should be released in their film festival? Which, as a independent film festival, they are allowed to. They are allowed to choose what goes in and out, but it's just films, I believe, should be judged on their merit and not on the way they come about. I don't care if you shot it on your iPhone or whatever.
Yeah. Right.
But I don't see the shamrock, so I think we're gonna go over here. We're getting ice cream, so yeah. Well, one of us is getting ice cream, probably. But I feel like maybe we're going too hard on Bright. You know?
No,
you don't think so?
I think
But think about this. Think about our perspective. You and I feel like, will choose movies that seem to have a fighting chance. I want you to watch movies that I think are good. You want me to watch movies that you're like, this is actually, you don't need to watch this. Like, this is good.
Wish Upon isn't that, by the way.
Oh, by the way, I forgot.
It's comedic value only, so don't go away and, like, watch that movie and
thinking
be like,
it's some sort of...
how did they like that?
It's
we
the
didn't.
worst
It was just,
movie ever in the best way.
It was,
it's so great.
Exactly.
I haven't seen something since The Room that was... And it's not as bad as The Room, but it's still pretty bad.
Bullshit. I did not hit her.
The sad thing about The Room, though, is I feel like a little bit of the magic is gone from The Room, recently. It's not a...
Why? Because it's turned into such a...
It's less underground now, and it's just kind of, it's more of a pop culture. It's becoming pop culture, and people think it's so, whatever. But I don't know, whatever. Maybe I'm one of those kids that once my favorite bands made it on the radio, I stopped listening to them. So I'm not a good judge of character on this. But yeah, maybe I feel like we might be going too hard because of the way that we choose movies. And like, I can't, like, the movies that you haven't liked recently that I've made you watch that I'm like, oh, this is really good. Or like the movies that you maybe watched that it's like, oh, this is, you know, really, this is, you thought it was really good or whatever. And I was just like, oh, I didn't like it. We didn't like that because, like, aesthetically, like, we're like, okay, subjectively, that's probably a good movie. But I just don't like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You and I,
like
but they're good movies
preference.
as a whole because you're just like, somewhere out there, they're getting critically acclaimed, you know, unless Harvey Weinstein had anything to do with it.
What have I made you watch recently?
You know...
I feel like we've been on a kick of Ryan movie after Ryan movie after Ryan movie.
Know.
And I come away like, help! I don't like these. Like, the movies that you really appreciate, I just don't get them. I don't get it.
Well, I got a whole list. I had a whole thing of Criterion Collection movies waiting at home because I bought it on a sale.
So weird.
So excited. Yeah. We're gonna bust it out. No, I agree. I think I've been pushing. I feel like around award season, I make you watch movies. I'm like, watch this, please. And you're like, okay, because I'm waiting for like. I feel like I'm just waiting for the one movie where you're like, yeah, that was really good. You changed me, and it's like I have yet to hit that. And I'm eventually, maybe down the line somewhere, but it's relatively a no. You're like, that's a hard pass. I'm not, you know.
Hard no.
But yeah, maybe we're going a little bit too hard, but I just didn't like it. I thought it was like it was such a pain, and I was in a movie watching mood too. Like, I mean, it was not like
me too.
It was not a whole ordeal. I was watching, I was like, what is going on?
And I don't feel like I went into the movie like wanting to hate it. Like,
no.
I saw a preview for it and I was like, that seems very strange, the concept. But you could tell, again, it's a high production value.
Yeah.
Like, you know, Will Smith is in it.
Yeah.
Joel the Orc is in it.
Yeah.
You know, like, okay, let's give it a chance.
Yep.
Like, I wasn't going into it, like, I felt like I kind of had an open mind.
Because nowadays, strange things that look strange to you actually look appeasing. Because you're like, oh, thank goodness it's not another Marvel movie.
Yeah.
Or another live-action Disney movie. Or whatever,
Very
you know?
Very true.
Don't worry, guys. Just bear with us. We're gonna make it through here. Oh,
thank you.
Thank you. You too. So please, take this. Get out of here. Bye. Bye, Sarah. So, final. I gave my final postmortem about Bright. And I just think it's to say it's a mess is on the nice side.
Yeah.
But to say it's terrible I might be being too rough on it. Somewhere it's just not good. So you.
I'm gonna take it there. Like, I don't think we're being too rough on it at all. I think it was horrible. I think when you have a certain expectation and a bar that you're setting with the budget that you have, you kind of have to meet at least a bare minimum, and that didn't reach it at all on any level. Like, the acting was bad, the writing was bad, the story was bad. It was even like all over the place. It wasn't even like I didn't really like the story. It was like the story was so confusing that it was hard to even nail down what the story was.
It gets lost in the action pretty easily.
Well, yeah, because like I said, it starts out one way where you think maybe it's just like about race and like overcoming differences and just like understanding how to, just as, you know, people on the earth, or in this case creatures or whatever, you get it, living amongst each other to like live in peace. And that was not it at all, because then it very quickly is like, oh wait, magic and this wand and now there's brights and things. So it was bad. Like, it was just bad. I very quickly got confused and didn't like watching it. And the fact that it was 2 hours, I was like, I mean, you've already lost me. I'm just not a fan.
Quick question, and then I have something to say. I feel like we should probably let the audience know. What do you think is worse? David Ayer's Suicide Squad, David Ayer's Bright. What is the worst movie?
In that regard, I'd probably say Suicide Squad, because there's so many characters in that movie and none of them are developed. That's his big weakness, is I feel like...
Yeah, because he does it in this one, too.
He does it in this one, too. Like, why is Will Smith such a dick? Why is he so crabby?
Yeah,
why
what's his reason? He has a child.
Right.
He has a wife.
Right.
Sure, he got shot in the chest. You know.
Yeah, but that was even after he was already working with...
I know.
Orky.
And at the end, but the problem is he doesn't develop. At the start, he's a jerk, and at the end, he's a jerk. Because he's like, he says something like, there's like the cliche setup where it's like, are we friends? And he's like, no, we're not friends. You know? And at the end, he's like, are we friends? And he's like, no, we're not friends, even though he saved me.
Like,
You are tearing me apart, Lisa!
wait, so what did we learn from this?
Yeah.
Nothing.
Nothing.
That Will Smith is a bright. Oh, yeah, that was the big twist to the end, which we pretty much figured out within the first 30 seconds of the movie.
Obvious if you didn't already know that.
Which is just stupid.
That's so he picks up the wand and he doesn't die, and it's like, great. All right, that was like, I took that from Act 1, but there's nothing that makes that character special because he's a jerk. Because
you don't like him, so
if you're gonna write a character that's a jerk, make sure you tag in some redeemable qualities, aka Quill from what's it called? Peter Quill from Guardians of the Galaxy. Absolute douchebag jerk, but redeemable. He has redeemable factors because of the fact that he has a sympathetic backstory where his mother passes away and then he gets abducted into space, which is terrible, and then he leads a life of piracy, and he's a criminal, he's a jerk, he burns everyone that he's around, but he has redeemable qualities because he's funny, and Will Smith's character is not funny in this.
Yeah, and you have no reason. It's like he has a daughter.
Yeah.
He's not even really that nice to her.
No, he said he's like, no, you're not doing that, or whatever, and I'm just like, dude, what is going on? But you're right, David Ayers, and that's kind of training day and Fast and Furious too. The characters are all one note and they never develop throughout those two movies. Those are two movies that he wrote, so that kind of shows you what his sort of like writing style is and stuff like that. Yeah. But man, so you think that Suicide Squad is definitely worse,
only
which I
because
agree.
It's like even more chaotic, I feel like, than this movie, because there's so many characters and none of them are developed. Even though like, oh, it's the Joker. Like, I know the Joker, but I don't know this Joker because this is weird.
And then they did the whole thing where the trailer is like, oh yeah, Joker's going to be a huge part in this movie.
Oh, God.
No.
Yeah.
And then now they have to explain. They're like, well, here's the reason why we cut him out. And they're like, well, that's confusing. Like, I don't know.
Exactly. But and I was beat to death with those songs, too. Just the soundtrack was every... song heard 500 million times.
It's like comedic banter, like comedic one-liners in movies nowadays, that those are beating me to death.
Yeah.
Those pop songs beat me to death. And it's like, it's same with Bright, except for they're less pop songs and kind of like pop rap, kind of. They're not any famous rap songs that I really know, because it's like not really like it's like kind of like crunk kind of stuff that I'm not really like familiar with. It's a subgenre of rap that I really don't really know very well.
It's a magic wand.
But it's like after the first one, you're like, okay, I get it. Like, we're living in Thug Town, Los Angeles. Like, it's like, stop.
Right.
It's just crazy.
Yeah.
But a note we'd like to make, is I think as far as movie reviews, like, we're not going to tell what the next one we're going to do or whatever, but I think we're going to stick to Netflix for now, so that everybody else along with us, if you're curious, you want to watch, and maybe send some notes to the comments and stuff like that, just so everybody kind of has an accessible, or since Netflix is like a huge deal, maybe you guys have already all seen the movie, and that would be helpful, because you could be like, yeah, no, you're wrong about Bright.
Please don't.
You're wrong. It's a great movie. It's the greatest movie of all time, and then you can like leave like 6 paragraphs at why it is and why I'm wrong and why I should never be allowed to review movies and stuff like that.
I don't think that person exists.
No. If that person exists, I want to meet him. Or her. Those are both. But yeah, man, that's gonna do it for podcast number 8. That sounds so weird saying.
Yeah.
8. Wow.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
I know. So exciting.
That's so crazy. 8 podcasts.
Yeah.
Well, until the 10th one and the 9th one, that's gonna be exciting. 10th one.
Yeah.
We should do something crazy. Do something crazy. Do something crazy. Whatever happened to that guy? Asher Roth?
Who?
Yeah, it's gonna do it for podcast number 8.
Yeah.
Crazy. We're big boys now.
Yeah.
We big kids. We big kids.
Big kids.
All right.
That means.
I will, and she will, Kristen and Ryan,
Yeah.
catch you on the next one.
Bye.